Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm so pleased to be joined by supervising sound editor Donald Sylvester, an Oscar winner for Ford v Ferrari, and editor Andrew Buckland, also an Oscar winner for Ford v Ferrari. And their new film is James Mangold's A Complete Unknown, a great movie about Bob Dylan. Andrew and Don, you both have worked with James many times. I feel like before so I know this is a film he's wanted to make for several years. It seems like. So I guess what was the first time you all heard about this project and like kind of yeah? What did you all discuss about like making this Bob Dylan movie? Don, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I heard about it maybe 3 years ago. Um, we um, we hear a lot of rumors about what Jim's next projects are, and some of them are true and some of them aren't. This one was kind of true, but we had to wait through uh, a strike, and the whole project was pushed. I know Jim's been working on it 5 years, I
Yeah,
guess.
I think so.
Yeah. So, 3 years for me is just 2 years waiting and then we're on the show. So yeah, it's good.
Andrew,
Yeah,
how
that's
about
about right.
you?
Yeah, that's about right. I found
Uh,
out I mean, I heard talk about it during Indiana Jones. Um, and that was slotted to be our next project, but then the strike just delayed everything.
yeah.
So obviously with this film, like the live singing of the actors, I think is the headliner here, and they're all incredible. You have Timothy Chalamet playing Bob Dylan, Monica Bavaro playing Joan Baez, Edward Norton as Pete Seeger, all these great actors performing live, doing the music as these very famous songs and all these different things. I guess like this is going to happen. This is how the movie's going to be. What is your first like step to making sure this is going to work? I guess starting with the sound. I guess Don, like how do you know that this is going to work and you're going to be able to do this with these actors?
Well, I'm going to answer first, but I think Drew should answer this question because
Okay.
he put everything he hammered everything together. Uh, I I had seen Timmy do Wonka, and I thought, well, okay, he can sing. I wonder if we're going to do live stuff or not. And then, of course, I show up, and he's doing it. He's doing it all on camera, all live, and it's like, oh, well, I knew he was talented, but I didn't know he was like this talented. Come on. But then, Drew, you talk about how you hammered it together.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is, what the challenge of this movie was um that there is live singing in the movie. And so when you cut live singing, you have to treat each take as like its individual unique take. You can't sort of, conventionally you would group all these shots together because it's all playback and then all the shots line up to this particular playback. I couldn't do that in this case because each take was, is different and he's singing live. So each take is, slightly different. So it added a layer of complexity that just took a little time to find the right rhythm and fortunately for all the actors who were singing their tempo and their pacing was pretty consistent throughout the take. So um, it was, my fear was, quickly, evaporated, that, I could actually cut these together and then, sort of finesse the timing of the music and so, and once I have a basic structure and it's working because I initially make the first music cut because I have to put these shots, assemble the scene and create the moments and then show Jim and Jim reacts. I have to be able to have Jim react, um, and so nothing's really bumping him musically. Like we have to watch the scene and see if it's working. And so and then Don and Ted Kaplan, our music editor, would help with finessing the music and making sure it just doesn't sound like just repeated moments of the music and make sure his vocals are like, are clear and clean.
yeah, sonically we had to sort of let his music carry the sonic landscape. In other words, I couldn't put things on top of his music that would interfere. I had to sort of wait in between vocals and things like that to have crowds or sounds or anything like that, atmospheric stuff. It was very much a presentation of the live track, and once Drew put it together and Scott, our other picture editor, once they put it together, we were allowed then on the sound team to sort of plaster it in with all of the stuff that we normally do, the backgrounds and the sound effects and things like that. But we always were mindful that we can't do anything that interferes with the musical performances because we have to let people know that this is authentic, this is really happening, and we can't disguise it with any kind of trickery. So that was essential that we make sure that that was first and foremost.
And then for like the other thing too, I guess the other one of the aspects of the movie I think is so cool is all these performances are in different like venues, right? Like it's like an intimate, like he's in his bedroom playing, acoustic guitar, right, with like Joan, or he's in like a club or a big stage outdoor concert or an indoor venue. I guess like how like making sure all of those things sound exact. It just seems like really complicated for lack of a better like question. I'm just like, man, how like and making sure all of that sounds exactly how it would sound to somebody who's like, oh, I know what it sounds like at a concert, right? Like that kind of thing. Like how much like time and energy is spent like making that sound right, I guess.
The time
And energy.
and
Yeah.
energy. Yeah, both of those things. I mean, absolutely right. I mean, what's great about this film and the musical journey, if you don't mind me speaking at this moment, but is, you can really track the arc of his musical journey. So the very first scene where we see him play is that intimate scene in the hospital when he's playing for his idol, Woody Guthrie, and Pete Seeger's there. And that is Timothy, and he's playing the guitar, and it's just raw, and it's unembellished, and it's simple, and it's really beautiful. And then from there it just expands till we reach the very climactic scene with the full band and the the loud
People.
aggressive music and everything. And so, musically you can really track that journey, and from that very simple opening to the very, climactic end. um it Yeah.
Jim constructed this in a way when he wrote the script that the very first time that Timmy performs will have to be like it's the test. Okay, is he going to be Bob Dylan? Is he going to be Timothy Chalamet pretending to be somebody? And because Timmy was so involved in this project and had been more or less 5 years on the job, um, he had grown into this uh, confidence that he could actually perform these songs. And so that when the camera rolled, it was literally him after 5 years of preparing, sitting down and actually doing the songs. And he's not necessarily mimicking or trying to do a personification of Bob Dylan. He's actually embodied the whole thing. He's actually put himself in that position. Um, and so we want to make sure that this first test that was everybody's litmus test passed. Like this is the guy, and this is his story, and you're going to believe it from day one. So we stood back. There's nothing going on in the hospital room. There used to be sound effects in the background of the empty hospital and people walking around on doors and phones, and it all went away. Let him do his thing, and it's like, are you now a believer? Because we are.
Yeah.
You other thing, and Drew, you can talk about this too. I mean, like, I love the way you let the performances breathe. Like, I think that obviously, like, because they're singing live, you're probably able to do this. But I can imagine another version of this where it's like cut, 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 right? Just like cutting out or whatever. But like here, it's just like, man, you're just watching him do this. Like, there's not a lot of separation between the audience and like his performance.
Yeah, no, but I think definitely when we approach those scenes, it's Scott and I, we had the same sort of feeling when we cut these scenes that we just want it to be as natural as possible, and we didn't want to. There was no need to sort of heighten or I don't know to sort of contrive moments because just to allow Timothy or Monica and Edward sort of embody these characters and try to not get in the way of their performance. And so, cutting those scenes, just finding the natural rhythm within the song and like allowing the actor to sort of, feel like the performance to feel as natural as possible.
I think what Drew doesn't mention here is that there's another good reason for staying on these performances. Not only are they authentic and real, but because it's live, there's a very good chance that if you use another take, it's slightly different pacing. It's slightly rhythmically different. Not that it's going to be that obvious to a lot of people, but when you're assembling, multiple takes into one, simply because you want to cut like to another angle or something, um, you run the risk of having everybody go, "Oh, that's a second take." That's not the same take. No, here we were worried that they're going to think he's not actually doing it live, and then you have the problem with, well, he is doing it live and he's not matching. So it was a very delicate assembly that these guys did, which I think goes unnoticed because it's so seamless.
Yeah, it almost feels effortless when you're watching it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Which is like good because it feels so good, but like yeah, it's really interesting.
Good point,
Don,
Don. Thank
yeah.
you.
Mm.
Do you, Don? Or I guess what was your level of knowledge and awareness of Dylan's music, and then also like did it help or hurt? Did you go back and listen to old recordings of him before even doing this, just to get a sense
No,
of anything? No. Okay.
no. I mean, I'm thoroughly aware of his music, but I wasn't like a Dylan fan. I wasn't. I mean, some people in this film were rabid Dylan fans. You know, um, and they're like, "Oh, that was his album in 1966," and you go like, "Okay, I did not know that." But I kind of missed out on Dylan. By the time I got involved in music, Dylan had come and gone, and well, not gone, but he had peaked and all that sort
Right.
of stuff. I wasn't part of that, and so I thought, well, this would be good. I mean, I like Dylan. This is fine, but getting more involved in as we went along, I really, really enjoyed this job. His music to me, I was almost like a new fan because his music had such meaning, and we're not used to approaching music in a way that the lyrics are that insightful and important, and you want to listen to every word he says and try and figure out what he means and what he's telling you, and we're not living, or maybe we are, but we're not certainly not living in the 60s that felt so dangerous all the time, because it was a very important decade where there's political assassinations, and there's social upheaval, and there's hippies and the silent generation, or I don't even know how many different factors were at odds with controlling the society, was going on, and he was a commentator for all of that. So yeah, it was for me, it was like going back and discovering him anew. It was a lot of fun that way.
Drew, what about you? Are you a big Dylan head?
No, I totally appreciated Dylan before I started this movie, and I actually gained a lot a deeper understanding as I was working on this movie of Dylan, and also it's just striking how much of Dylan's music. I mean, I guess I knew that, but it really resonated, like how much his music was covered by other artists, and how it's sort of like it's really his music's just infused as like the I don't know the foundation of a lot of the music we take for granted. It was pretty, it's really remarkable.
I really like that about the film too, in terms of like showing like this is one for me. Neither here nor there, but like Joan Baez singing "House of the Rising Sun," which I'm like, but I don't know that from the Animals, and I had no idea that it was like a cover. Basically, you know what I mean? Like, I think
Yes,
the way that
exactly.
Jim tells the story and the way you're putting this movie together too is like showing how these folk songs were actually like massive future pop hits, basically, right? Or like that they
Yes.
are like this is like the foundation of music that people know now, even, right? I just think that's like really interesting and how contemporary really that music was, I guess, in its own way.
Yes,
Yeah, the
very.
House of the Rising Sun was kicked around for decades with it was a pretty legit folky thing, and the idea that animals would take the animals would take it and make it into a pop hit was like revolutionary. That's what we're talking about in this type of film. It's like it's the evolution of. I know they like to make it all about pop music, but it's really the evolution of pop music into sort of,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, folk music. They're trying to talk about the importance of folk music, but it's the evolution of folk music into pop music, which I think Dylan helped spearhead.
Drew, and one of the things, another thing I love about this movie is just the general pacing. I think is fantastic. It just moves along really well. Like it's just like incredibly watchable on top of being like so compelling. And I guess like that feels maybe like a lost art when I watch certain movies, and certainly in biopics. I think especially though I think this is a different kind of biopic, obviously because it's such a truncated amount of time. But I just felt like this just felt fresh in a way as watchable. Like, can you talk a little about like your approach overall to the picture and like how you kind of like made it that pacing so like work so well, I guess.
Well, I guess, because Scott and I would have these
Yeah.
conversations with Jim, and Jim's really he really emphasizes this idea when we cut of how scenes flow into the next scene. So he's really uh particular about making sure that the scene he describes it as like falling into the next scene. So it's like some scenes, not necessarily, come to a conclusion. The conclusion of that scene is how it enters the following scene. So we're constantly evaluating like when is the latest we can enter the scene, and when is the earliest we can leave that scene. Like what is the sort of the pithy moment of that scene, and is it revealed? Once it's revealed, then we can move on. We can then fall into the next moment. And so it's just, and I think overall you get that sense of like this movement, this propulsion throughout the whole film that allows you to sort of move. And it doesn't feel like you're moving too fast. It feels like the right moment to sort of fall into the next scene, because you've now gotten the sort of the pith of that particular moment. And so there's no need to sort of belabor it, and you sort of like, and you can move into the next moment.
It's really it works. It does. You move right into it. So you guys did a great job.
Thank
Don, I think you guys we were talking before about like the way the story kind of evolves and you end on the Newport Folk finale is
Yeah.
just kind of just a great sequence. All of like so much stuff going on, obviously with the
Yeah.
crowd going crazy and like them playing electric and all these different things. I, what is it like to put a sequence like that together, I guess, in terms of the sound and like layering all that stuff on top of each other?
Well, it's something that we discussed over and over and over again because I don't know if you realize when you film a concert scene 9 times out of 10, you don't have 15,000 extras there. You have
Hmm.
a smaller amount. This is a secret that I'm revealing for the first time. And we had a few hundred extras,
Yes.
but we didn't really understand the scope of what we were doing. I mean, we knew there was going to be people there, but finally, all of a sudden, when there was visual effects put there and there was 15,000 people, it really informed how well we could cheat crowds and make them seem part of the scene. So there was layers of crowds that we had to do that were actually on the set. There's some people that were there making sounds, and we used all of that. There's stuff that we used from libraries that had to match the emotion of the crowd because these crowds were in really important in their their dialogue was their crowd call outs. I'm not speaking well. The crowd's interaction with Dylan was essential because he heard what they were saying and how they were reacting,
Hmm.
and he responded, and it affected his ability to grow as an artist, and he was trying very hard to be an artist first and a performer maybe second. So finding library effects to augment that is difficult. So it takes a lot of effort and all the time. And then on top of that, we're going to record crowds that will then help tell what the crowds are feeling at the time. So we've got these call outs, we've got the people on the stage, and then we got the library, and all of those have to mix together in a way that doesn't step on the music. So here we go with a moment with Bob Dylan coming out on the stage in Newport, 1965, and he gets the biggest tumultuous, cheer from the crowd that then turns into sort of a stunned silence when they realize he's now gone electric. And so all these character developments and traits of the crowd had to be utilized and had to be achieved. So it was hard. It was hard because the crowd is always a character. The people he meets on the street, the people he meets in parties, all the people around him influence him and talk to him. And, everything is part of his journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the crowd, even you mentioned like being at a party, like when he's at the party in 65, I guess that is right when there's like, and it's just like that. It feels like you're just feeling like it's great how the movie throws you into feeling like so, like just everything coming at you, right? And like puts you right
Yeah.
in his shoes, I guess. I think that's like really, really cool. And Drew, I guess for you and cutting together that finale, like again, it's like as exciting as anything in Ford v Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like it just is like very propulsive and very like,
Right. We
really
kind of
great.
describe that scene as the Le Mans of
Okay.
of Bob Dylan. That's how that's what we call that scene. And that took when they shot the scene, they shot the entire there are three the rock and roll songs that were sung consecutively. They shot that as one take. So I mean, Timmy would perform the three songs without cuts. And of course, there were many takes of these and different angles and everything like that. So we really had to the the right moments, to tell the other stories. Like there's the drama of Lomax, getting pissed and going to the soundboard to try to turn it down, and then Pete, like finding the right moments to leave Bob, but also at the same time, we didn't want to leave him completely. We also were conscious of trying to keep him involved, even in that side drama, the offstage drama. So it was, that was the one that took the most time, and to explore, because when we were cutting, we were actually creating the dramatic beats, from those 20-minute takes of Timothy performing all those three songs and figuring out how to break that down, and then how the crowd is brought in, and when to figure out how a crowd is reacting to a particular moment, a moment that Bob is playing, and yeah, all that stuff. That was the one that took the obvious. I mean, it's not a surprise. It took the most time,
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
interesting enough even when they're at the soundboard and the concerts in the background, they're still doing a concert. This is the thing, is like we had music playing the whole time. They're doing a scene at the soundboard, and behind them they're doing another concert take.
Yeah.
So it's real, and it's like,
Yeah.
and we had to sort of like try to get this dialogue to come through with all, and there's music playing everywhere. So it's quite a challenge.
Challenge, I think it succeeded because it's awesome. And when you see this in the theater, it just absolutely rips. And like the sound and everything works so well together. It's so good. We have to wrap up there with supervising sound editor Donald Sylvester and editor Andrew Buckland. Thank you both so much for doing this. It was great talking about Complete Unknown with you.
Oh, my pleasure. It was
Hey,
fun.
thanks a lot. Enjoyed
Thanks
it.
a lot.